What's up, manifestation queens? I have a total treat for you today. And I know I say this like almost every time during every single episode, but it's honestly the truth. I mean, come on. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, then you know one of my favorite topics is money and manifestation, right? The laws of the universe, taking those concepts from the laws of the universe and applying them to your life so that you can bring in more money and abundance and happiness and joy and all the things, right? Well, by the way, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. I love you. I'm so happy that you found us, me. I don't know why I say us. So happy that you found me and that you found this podcast. So this is going to be such a great episode because I really do like the woo-woo stuff, but I'm not like overly woo-woo yet. And honestly, I really love some really practical applications to my life. And I'm sure you do too, because, you know, we all have bills to pay. We might have kids. You might have a dog that's very high maintenance. You know, you might want to go on vacation once we're all let out of America. If you're not in America, congratulations. You can probably go see cooler places than us, you know. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. Money. All right. So today, my guest on this podcast is Katelyn Magnuson, and Katelyn is a millennial money and business expert. So she's giving actionable financial advice that you can use right now. And, you know, let's face it, 2020 has been a bit of an interesting ride, right? It's sort of like one of those new rides that they have at Disney and you have like no idea what the hell is going to be happening in it. And you're just like, oh, wow. Oh, cool. Well, that was interesting. And then you're like, never want to go on that again. But maybe you do. Anyway, I know that you will benefit from this chat that we had about money and mindset because I actually learned quite a bit through this as well. And you know, let's face it, once you start to manifest a fuck ton of money, you're going to have to figure out what to do with it. And if you can help make your money grow without doing anything else, you're basically manifesting money on top of manifested money and compounding that. That's really magical. So today you're going to be learning about how to really take actionable steps in this area. And, you know, Katelyn grew her income from $24K per year at 22 years old to multiple six figures by 29. And during this, she had credit card debt. She was investing in retirement. She was traveling the world. And that's basically to say that nothing has, you know, you can basically do it all, right? Nothing, it's not like an either or situation here. And we're going to tell you how today. So I hope you really enjoy this episode. If you do, I want to invite you to check out the Manifestation Queen Academy that is coming up soon because money is going to be a big topic in there. In addition to how to manifest, you know, an amazing life that's full of joy and abundance and limitless happiness and, you know, all the things. So you can call in more of love. You can call in a soulmate. You can, you know, start becoming a master manifester of your life, which literally means creating your life from nothing at all, right? That's what I did. So with that being said, Manifestation Queen Academy is coming back in August, and we are going to be having the most epic time in Manifestation Queen Academy this time around. It's going to be the best round ever. There are 9 women that are already in the program, and I can't wait for it to begin. So head to themanifestationqueen.com/academy. You can find out more info there, and you can get on the list to be on this upcoming round, which starts just in, you know, the end of August. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy this conversation. If you do, you can take a screenshot, tag me on Instagram at XOCassieMcKenzie. If you have time and you're on iTunes, you can take your finger and hit 5-star review so more people can find us on iTunes. That would be phenomenal, and I would love you forever. So thanks again, guys. Can't wait to hear what you think about this episode. Can't wait to hear what is coming in the future, and hope you have a wonderful day. Bye. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome to the Manifestation Queen podcast, your filter-free and uncensored source for all things manifestation. I'm Cassie McKenzie, and I'm a manifestation expert. I'm here to raise your vibes and your cash flow. Listen, I've manifested everything from a beer, a 6-figure salary, my husband, and homes, and more. And I am spilling everything I can on this podcast so you can learn how you can do the same. The more fun I have, the more manifestations appear, and the more money I make. So it's my obsession to show you how you can be, do, and have anything you want. So join the movement to raise your income and your impact on this world. Become a manifestation queen and create a life that feels like a vacation. Let's do the damn thing. Well, we are talking about my favorite topic today, which is money.
Yes. I know. I was listening to your 5-day challenge yesterday that you recorded, and I was like, oh my God, we both love talking about money. This is fantastic.
That's awesome. Which challenge was that?
Oh, it was a recording from, I think, your free challenge, or it was your 5 money manifestation.
This is a manifestival or yeah.
Yes, it may have been. I know it was something punny. It was cute.
Cool. Yeah. I absolutely am really obsessed with learning new ways to teach people about how to become wealthy, and about money and mastering money. But it's funny because all the same principles work, whether you're, intentionally bringing money into your life or like health goals or whatever. It's just that some of us are a little and not some of us, we're all a little better in some areas and resistant in others. You know what I mean? So It's really interesting. So well, let me go ahead and introduce you. I'm so excited to get to catch up today. So Katelyn Magnuson, you are Foolproof Finance Pro. I love it. Bookkeeper extraordinaire. Well, you're probably cringing because I still haven't done my taxes. And freelance hustler. I love it. So you're a lover of life, travel, financial independence. I have to agree with all of that. So Katelyn teaches you how to automate your money and hit your big financial goals while still buying those daily lattes and weekend brunch, which I love brunch. I love mimosas. And this sounds like a great match. So,
who doesn't love brunch?
I know, right? I mean, yeah, definitely people who need to reevaluate their priorities. I'll tell you that. So tell me a little bit about you and how you got started doing this.
Oh man. So we're going to do a very abridged version, but way back when, I have always been really great at math, was bused to the high school and middle school because after fighting with teachers and principals and you name it, we finally made the point that I should actually be allowed to advance to the level that I was at. All well and good. I was I'm not going to say the weird kid out, but I always ran with a bunch of different cliques, never had my own, did my own thing, which really kind of, now that I'm reflecting on it, explains a lot of how I got to where I am now. But it was just always really good at math and ended up being tapped by someone at the local health club that I worked at as a swim instructor. She's like, you have to come work for my business. You have to come work for my business. And I thought she was crazy. She was a little bit crazy, but that's beside the point. She brought me in at 18. I worked for her all through college. And I was actually mentored by a woman who had worked for Speedo and Carter's and was really on the cutting edge of working in a very male dominated field and just killing it as a production management, accounting. There's this weird sort of mixed area where you end up in finance, but also in production management. What I mean by that is making sure that you're ordering the proper number of like pieces to make clothes or to make, other apparel assemblies, and making sure you're forecasting the right need, because the goal is to always have nothing left over at the end of the season. But that really is a science and an art. And you're never right. You're just always trying to be less wrong, um, which is, a humbling experience. And she ended up taking me under her wing, and I worked with them for 4 years, ended up starting my own business, and then have dabbled with various W-2 or day jobs over the course of the last 10 years that have taken me through sales tax, through taxability libraries, through payroll processing positions. And each of those has been a strategic move, whether for more money, for better working conditions, or for increased skill sets, that have really brought me to the full service business that I'm at now.
Yeah. Wow. That does sound like it all fell in line pretty quickly, or,
It really did.
really well. Yeah. So now I guess like you sound like you're really great at like analytically looking at money, like logically and stuff like that. Was that how you would describe yourself?
So I feel like I'm a little bit of a unicorn in that, yes, I absolutely have a really strong logical analytical side, but there's a lot of woo involved. And I was
Yeah.
really resistant to the woo for a while. And then I ended up getting to the point where like I realized I've always considered myself a lucky person. And
Hmm.
therefore I am. And, just some other reinforced beliefs. Once I kind of figured out like, oh, it's not all just like, I'm going to say crystals, even though I have crystals, but like,
Right.
me 10 years ago was like, this is a bunch of bullshit. Like, I don't hold any belief in it. And I was like, oh, actually I do, even if I didn't realize I did. So yes,
Mhm.
I'd say I'm like 75% nuts and bolts, very like executable, and actionable steps and tips, with that like 25% of no, there needs to be intuition and manifestation. And like, you need to actually be listening to yourself as you go through this process and doing what's right for you.
Totally. Yeah. There really are like two different kinds of laws of money. I was actually reading this in a book earlier today, that I've had this book for like 6 months and haven't really looked at it. And I opened it up and I was like, oh my God, my favorite topic, money, of course. But I was reading, and I never read the introductions of a book. I always like skip past that and go just like straight into it. But
Right. The meaty stuff.
right, I know. So I I was looking at I was reading the introduction, and literally it said there's two kinds of laws of money you'll want to follow to create and keep it. And one is the spiritual laws that make you magnetic to money and abundance. And, the money that comes will bring you your highest good if you're following those laws. And I've done like a couple different master classes on like the 12 universal laws of
Mm-hmm.
manifestation, and I apply it to money. But a lot of times what you don't find in these spiritual books is the next sentence that said the human made laws of money include financial planning, time management, cash flow management, marketing, taxes, business planning. And you have to learn whatever is appropriate to help you understand and work with those human made laws of money as they now exist.
Oh my God, I
So
love that.
isn't that cool? So it is like actually saying, because so many people are like, no, no, it's all about like throwing your energy out and, what ifing your way into financial prosperity. And like for some, but you also need to know and apply common fucking sense. And, like
Right. Like, how does this work in the world
practical
that we
things.
live in?
Yeah, for sure. Like knowing what your interest rate is. Like, does it make more sense to pay a $4,000 balance off, or would it cause you less stress to pay 2,000 and pay like, I don't know, $50 just to have that, you know, extra, you know what I
Yes.
mean? So
Yes. No,
like
you're speaking my
management.
love language. That's a conversation I have all the time with people where I'm like, so I'm very anti Dave Ramsey personally,
Mm-hmm.
because I think he is just mired in lack and scarcity, and it hurts.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, I'm a proponent of doing what works for you. But the conversation that I have with people is like, you can look at this really logically. Like if you have debt, say, well, okay, is your debt, if you have a car loan that's like 3.25% or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you could be making 8 to 12% investing the money that you could be using to also pay. Like if you have an extra $500 a month, what do you do with it? Well, there's the logical point where like, yes, over the next 5 to 10 years, if you invest that money, generally speaking, you'll have made more than you will have paid in interest, most times double or triple more. But where is the peace for you? Do you feel more peaceful knowing that you've made more money and you've had someone say a
Mhm.
more sound investment? Or do you feel better having paid off the car, even though you would have lost some of the earnings? And that's really like a personal question that each client or each person has to go through.
Yeah. And like looking at debt from a perspective of I'm choosing to pay this off over time, and I'm, looking at it as loaned money from people who are willing to loan it to you,
Oh,
versus something
absolutely.
that's bad. You know what I mean? We There was a point in time where we had, I want to say like 13,000 across, because you do investments in coaches just starting out. And like
Mm-hmm.
my husband lives in South Africa. So when we can't just one go, or he doesn't live there. Oh my God, what am I saying? He's from there, his family.
Okay.
So like, there was a bunch of big expenses that happened all at once that we put onto a card. And I was like, oh, this is bothering me. Like all of this extra, like the interest rate, like month over month over month. And I was like, oh, I need to find a solution to this. And so I threw it out there. Next thing I know, no shit, like our credit union sent us like a free balance transfer. Like that never happens.
Oh
We were
my
like,
gosh.
yeah. And we had 12 months to pay it off. And then after that, it was something like 9% interest on whatever the balance was, like nothing basically,
Right.
And I was like, see, this makes me feel so good. This is what I wanted. I'm like, sign up for this. We can transfer everything over there. And then it's paid and it's done. And it's just like no different than a medical bill that they're like, oh, just give us what you can every month, pretty much. You know what I mean? So
Yes, yes. I'm
totally.
very familiar with medical bills right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had surgery last year and yeah, it was great because I was like, oh, you're going to have all these bills, but they're fantastic about letting you pay them with 0% interest, like
Yeah.
a portion of the bill every month. I was very surprised with our, I know that our healthcare system is broken and in need of fixing, but there's nothing wrong with paying something off over time.
Yeah.
I ended up, because I had access to credit cards, I was able to afford my first and only, hopefully, but I was able to afford my first divorce.
Oh, wow.
At a very young age of 22, I was able to do that and finance it. And I hold no judgment for people that either choose to or have to use credit cards, because especially with our, economy in a recession, I encourage clients to have credit lines of credit available to them,
Yeah.
because yes, manifesting and having clients and all of this is fantastic, but like part of that is using your available resources, and credit cards and lines of credit can be great resources.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so like my husband, it's so funny though, like perception, like people's perceptions based on their background. Like this is where the manifestation side comes up, right? So like people's perceptions create a story inside of their heads, and then they get like funky emotions attached to it, where they're like something that I think is great, he might look at and be like, oh my God, you Americans and all your credit, you just pay everything with cash and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, let me just run through these numbers for you, Mr. I don't look at any bills and let my wife handle all of this shit. Like, let's run through everything. And he's like, his jaw opens up at like how much, it's not free to live at the beach, So
Right.
you're in a van, and even then, like you need gas for anyway, I'm getting off topic there. But like, so one day he was like just shitting on the fact that like we have credit cards and that we're paying things off, which to me, I'm like, this is great. Like we're paying things down. It doesn't bother me. Like this is perfect, like almost down to zero, which is
Right.
awesome. And, I was like, you know what, Ian, here, think about this for a second. We own 2 homes collectively. Like both of those homes are like, how much do we pay for them? Like almost $600,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we have a renter in our other place. And then last year, almost a year ago, we moved to St. Petersburg, Florida. And so we didn't sell our other house because it just didn't make sense to financially. We
Yeah.
were renting it out. And so I was like, do you realize if you are looking at debt as all debt is bad, then you are about ooh, maybe $500,000 in debt. When he was like, no, I don't want to look at it like that. This is a house. This is an investment. I'm like, yeah, it is. So you get a 30-year mortgage on it. We better whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yes. No, it's like the things that are normalized, like having a mortgage is completely okay, but
yeah,
having credit card debt isn't, or having student loan debt isn't. Like, I'm sorry, all of those are, what did you get out of them? Like, what was your learning experience from it? How did it benefit your life?
yeah,
It's all just a choice to pay something off over time. And a lot of
exactly.
times, as a strategic move, it's definitely smarter, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
to have paid something off with a loan, assuming the interest rate is low, because you
Yeah,
can do a lot more with the available money that you could have also sunk into that.
totally. Yeah. And so on your bio, oh wait, you can't minimize Zoom when you're recording. I was like, oh, gonna close that to the back. Well, of course I closed that window out. Anyway, you said to keep the lattes. Now, this is something I'm always saying to my family too, because I think that's a Dave Ramsey thing, right? Isn't it? Or something where it's like, don't go to Starbucks, make your
Him and
coffee.
Susie Orman and
Yeah.
all the just
Yeah.
stodgy. Yes.
Right. Who obviously have never had to go and put some earphones in and do some work at Starbucks for 3 hours, right? So I'm always saying if it brings me sanity and if it brings me joy, then it's going to make me more productive, which actually makes me more money in the long run than the $3 green tea ever did,
Oh,
ever.
absolutely. No, Dave Ramsey said something recently that appalled me. He said that you shouldn't be in a if you're in debt, you shouldn't be in a restaurant unless you're working in one. And my jaw dropped. I was reading that and I was like, what the actual hell? Because keep in mind, I'm a millennial. And a lot of millennials and Gen, X, everyone has, or a lot of people, I shouldn't say everyone, has student loan debt. And even if you were to take all other debt out and look at student loan debt, for a lot of people, student loans, they're planning to pay off over, 10 to 30 years potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that, oh, you should basically not have a life and work yourself to the bone and have no enjoyment and no pleasure because, he doesn't advocate having any, fun money and have $1,000 emergency fund basically
Wow.
until your debt is paid off. Like, what a miserable fucking existence.
Yeah, what's the point? That sounds terrible. And then you start to attach, I'm a huge, I absolutely 100% believe all the feelings that you attach to various things in your life are what is
Mm-hmm.
going to bring you more or less, right? So fear and lack and scarcity is so easy for us to access because we're bombarded with it all the time, So if you ask
Yes.
somebody, when's the last time you felt excited about money? I bet 90%, maybe 99 of the population would be
Never. Yeah.
probably
I
when
don't
I was
remember.
10 and my
Yeah. I got
grandfather
birthday
gave
money.
me, he gave me $20 to go upstairs and give him an iced tea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
it's crazy. Like, I still have credit card debt now and a,
Mhm.
ridiculously huge mortgage because we bought a beautiful $500,000 house this last year. Like, it's
Mhm.
fantastic. But you bet your ass, like,
Yeah.
I'm still going out to do things. And like, especially during COVID, I've been going out and getting takeout as available and tipping really graciously because I can and because I want to be able to spread wealth where I can.
Yeah.
And it's important to me because I can support businesses that I want to see make it through this. And I feel that that's my responsibility to do and my pleasure, frankly.
Right. Yeah. Because they provide a lot for you. It's like saying you're not going to love your husband just because he unloaded the dishwasher the wrong way, or pissed you off for a week straight. And you're like, what
Right.
the fuck you? Done. But yeah, it doesn't
Yes.
necessarily work like that now, does it? So yeah, it's so interesting because a lot of these, quote unquote, traditional gurus about money are the ones that will scare the pants off of you to actually enjoy spending money. And to me, if you don't enjoy spending money and you don't, spend with happiness and gratefulness and graciousness, then what do you think is going to come back to you? I have a course called Money is Your Boyfriend. It's about exploring money from a standpoint of like the actual relationship that you
Mm-hmm.
have with money as if it's a real person. And, when you start looking at it like that, and then you wonder why it's not showing up and like knocking on your door because you're afraid to spend it, like what's a couple extra
Mm-hmm.
dollars, like, we did the same exact thing, where we live, there's a really great pizza place that's next to a Thai place, so it's a win-win, like my
Oh,
kids can have pizza and we can get Thai food, and it's like a done deal, and so we kept going throughout COVID for that same exact reason, doing the same thing you did, because it brings us so much extra joy to not have to clean dishes and
yes.
have something that's like prepared and warm and not thrown at us, like it is so much better. So I feel you there on that one for sure. Yeah.
Oh my God. No, it is. It's just, all of COVID has, I think, given us a lot of time. At least it's given me a lot of time to reflect um, on the importance of making an impact, of doing the right thing, of having the financial freedom to, frankly, freedom of choice. Like money to me gives you freedom of choice. If you want to be a hermit and live in the middle of nowhere, which I live in the middle of nowhere but would not classify myself as a hermit, like you get to do what you want. You get to have the house in Barcelona, you get to travel the
Get
world,
out
you
of
get
my
to make an
dream
impact.
diary. How did you know that?
I
That's
want
in
an
my
apartment in Barcelona, we want a penthouse in Medellin, and we want a house in Iceland. And that's kind
Oh,
of our plan right now. Those are three places. Well, we've yeah, we travel a lot, COVID aside,
right.
but like it's just, you get to have so much more impact. And I had an argument with my sister, God, years ago now, who is, I love her dearly, but we butt heads like crazy. And she wanted to make the argument. She's like, why are you so obsessed with money? And I was like, because it makes the world go round. It's how we communicate with others. It's how we can make an impact. And she's like, well, I can make a really big impact without being rich. And I was like, I'm not arguing the fact that you can't make an impact without being rich or wealthy. However, think of how much you can amplify that impact and speed it up if you were wealthy and were able to put significant money behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest driving factors.
Yeah. So what do you like, I mean, aside from that too, like what do you think is behind someone's uh like hesitance to talk about money, like for instance, my husband, like obviously in the coaching world, you start to hear about all these people making 20, 30, 40, 80, a bajillion dollar months, and it's like
Mhm.
inspiring, but like to my husband, he was like, I don't understand. Like to me, like you talking about money all the time, like that is crass. And I'm like, well, actually it's not, like that's the reasoning behind why people have a lack mentality around it
Yes.
personally. So what's your philosophy around all this?
So, sex and money are two of my favorite topics, because I feel like in so many ways they are both so taboo in Western society.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I'd say probably in all societies, but there's um, Puritan sense around both of those, where they get very interconnected, and that, you know, wanting pleasure and happiness and desire and all of that can really be villainized. And so my lovely husband actually had no idea what I really did until this last year when he started helping me behind the scenes in my business. And he's starting to get it now. But we would talk about that same thing, like, oh, my business coaches are making like 50, 60, 70, $80,000 months, and I've just watched them rise over the last several years, and I'm so happy for them. And he sees it as, well, they're an outlier, whereas I see it as proof that if they can do it, why, I can do it too. Like whatever they're doing, and whatever I see other coaches like Amanda Francis or
Yeah.
Sarah Dan having these amazing, spectacular months and years and launches, and it gets easier, and they're providing value. Um, my philosophy behind that is using things to prove, like find the proof instead of looking for why you
Mhm.
can't. I always look for why you can. And bless his soul, David is so not a woo person. He is, loyal to the core, company man. He just left his job of 11 and a half years last week. Um,
Ooh.
and is now unemployed. Yeah, so he could move. We've been living separately for 7 months, and he just moved back out here last week. Um, but he is kind of doing some soul searching right now. So I'm really excited to see where that ends up, because I think he might be at that point now where he's basically, I lead by example. He's been starting to see that all of these things that he thought were so unattainable or impractical or not for the average person. And he's like, oh, wait, but we can do that. Like, you talk about money because you're knowledgeable in that sense. And like, he got over the sex thing years ago, because we, like, our friend group is very open, and I brought in all these people. He was like, you guys are crazy, and like, not in a bad way, because like he'd always dated people that were, the traditional, like, when you think of a crazy girl kind of a thing. And then I brought him into my world, and my world is a lot of openness.
Yeah.
We can go have like topless river days and go hang out at the beach and like do whatever. And there's
Mhm.
just like this very relaxed self-confidence, which also lets us chat about money, chat about what we're making, and not in a bragging or a negative or an egocentric way, but in a, let's have this open dialogue so that others know what's normal, so that you can actually advocate for yourself. And I think women especially can tend to have shame around talking about salaries or talking about income, because it's not what you should do. It's not ladylike. Well, I'm sorry, but
Mhm.
fuck ladylike. You can be ladylike and rich as hell,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to say people, society has trained us that that's not okay. And I'm a really firm believer of breaking those boundaries down, of talking about, the female orgasm, and talking about sex, and talking about money, because if we don't talk about it, who's going to?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if we what's his name? The boring guy who probably hasn't had sex in a decade, Dave Ramsey. Is that his name?
Yes. Oh,
I shouldn't have said that, but I did. Oh well. This
no,
is the uncensored manifestation podcast, right?
someday, yeah, he just, I mean,
Yeah.
he's everything that I don't want to be. And yes, I understand if his program works, like, I am so happy for the people that feel great after getting out of debt. I just disagree with his methods
Well,
and his
everybody is
methodology.
where they are. You know what I mean? Like we all are helping people where they're ready to, jump into. Like some people are at a shallower end of the pool where they're willing to just do the things Dave Ramsey does. And, others are, want to go and free dive into manifestation land. And then I just kind of like to stay where my feet could touch if I need to, but like I can still float on like a unicorn floaty if I want to. You know what I mean? Like
No, I think that's a really good
balance in
point.
between.
Yes. No, I think that's very correct, because I think that a lot of people, like, especially in the household I grew up, it would have been easier in their mind to save $1,000 a month by cutting expenses somehow
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
than it would be to just make an extra $1,000 a month. I would way rather make an extra $1,000 a month and keep my lifestyle the same.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's really interesting. What did your husband do? What kind of job did he leave?
He worked for a microelectronics company as a quality assurance supervisor, and dabbled in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Helped with, building maintenance, things of that nature. And he's very kinetically intelligent, so mechanically inclined. Works on vehicles, works on the house, all those sorts, all the things that I don't want to do that I hire out to do. He
Nice.
really excels at doing. So now he's been working outside all day and finishing my chicken coop.
Cool. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, my husband about a month ago got laid off from his pharmaceutical job. That's what I used to do for about 20 years.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think after I was laid off like 4 different times, and that's when I just decided to go full time in my coaching business last year. Plus, with the 2 little kids, it's nice to spend time with them before they go to school.
Yes.
But yeah, I think a lot of people hit this like say midlife crisis or whatever, or they start to look at how they've made decisions along the way and realize I'm not any further, you know what I mean, than I was when I
Mm-hmm.
started. And I feel like that is like when people are woken up to a new way of thinking, like basically I say to people like, well, if your way has worked so well up until now, then wouldn't you have all the money that you wanted? Like if this way didn't work,
Yes.
then you would have tried it and failed or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you've got to be open to a new way of thinking and believing and acting around money than you've already traditionally done in order to experience something new, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest keys to all of this, like bringing it all, like doing the practical, but then also the energetics around money, and once, like my husband actually has gotten kind of woo, like more and more, right? And God love him. Now he's a vegan. He's got a fucking man bun. I'm like, who are you? Like, who are you? Like, you need to cut my hair. I'm like, no shit, I do. Yeah, I do.
Oh my
For
gosh.
sure. But like, it's so funny. It's how, easily we can change when we want to, and I think that
Yes.
money beliefs are the same exact way. Once you make that decision and you're open to a new way, then everything starts to really come together, and it might take hearing it 100 times and then you finally get it. But you know what I mean? It's such a difference maker there.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I've had, God, I'm trying to think of like the best example, but I relate money and budgeting to dieting a lot. I'm
Yeah.
a really firm believer that like you can, I think intuitive eating, basically once you know the basics, once you feel like you understand, you respect, you enjoy, you spend, you earn money. I'm actually very anti-budget. I think budgets are bullshit and I think they're keeping people broke. Because it's restrictive and it makes you focus
Totally.
on the lack. And
And like the not
whereas, no, I mean, there is, at the end of the day, are you looking at how much you bring in and are you making sure that your bills are less than that or that you're earning additional money? If so, automate what you're doing, automate your bills, automate your mortgage, spread your bills out to coincide with when your income is coming in, or spread your income to coincide with your bills. But once you've done that and you've automated it, that rest of the money is there and it's yours to spend. Like, why are you budgeting? Why are you, unless you love it, which there have been maybe 1% of people that I talk to that are like, no, it's my favorite thing in the world. It gives me control over my life. And like, if it makes you happy, fucking go for it. But
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
majority of us, like who wants to count their calories and weigh their food on the scale and do all of that? And when you're budgeting, especially restrictive budgeting, how are you going to do that for 5, 10, 15 years and not go insane or binge?
Or become dependent on it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Where you're so dependent on the budget for your guidance that you lose your own internal guidance, and then you don't even know what to do without it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
You cling to it as like a safety
Yeah,
measure.
grippy, clingy energy. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know what, though? I'll tell you, like for me, the biggest part about mastering money and learning more and more and more and teaching more and more women to become wealthy is because, like, a lot of us are moms, or a lot of us have families that, we're like, maybe you don't have kids, but maybe, one of your best friends does, or your sister or brother, or somebody's, you know what I mean? Like, there's other kids around
Yeah.
that you see growing up with a potential to have a scarcity mindset, And so, like, for me, I want to be able to show the kids how money actually works. Like, can you imagine if you grew up and, like, you just knew it, like you were fully supported, and not because, like, mom and dad are rich and they're like, here's $100, go buy some
Right.
candy. You know what I mean? Like, I want to teach my
No.
kids, like, the value of money,
Yes.
and also an expansive view of it.
No, I completely agree. We actually have, I mean, I moved into a community that has 7 full-time residents, and 3 part-time residents. And so we're very close-knit. And there are 2 girls that live in our neighborhood that have become particularly attached to me that
Mhm.
are 9 and 11. And I feel it's a real responsibility of mine they have great parents. I mean, fantastic, truly fantastic parents. But where can I step up as an intersectional feminist to help build their belief system and show them what is possible from another perspective, and help build their experiences and what they can feel is possible in the world? Like, what an amazing background to be able to come from, because I don't have my own children and I don't plan on having them. So
Mm-hmm.
where in my life can I help influence the future generation with things that I have proven, or disproven, limiting beliefs? And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
bullshit. We don't have to do that. And to help empower the next generation.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I'm with you 100%. 100 billion% for sure. So if you could pick like your top three things to teach the upcoming, let's how about top three things to teach women that they can pass along to the upcoming generation? Let's focus on the now, like the people we can help right now who will trickle it on, or the ripple effect, What would you say are the three most important things?
God, that's a really great question. Okay. I would say that the first thing is money gets to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to be fun if you choose to make it fun. Yes, we all have, bills to pay. I fucking love where I live. I love my house. I love my neighborhood. I love the weather of where I'm at. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I pay that mortgage payment, I don't dread it.
Yeah.
I am so thankful and grateful. I mean, I get like teary by myself sometimes when I go pay my mortgage, because I'm so grateful for the life that I have.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that has been a conscious choice for me, because it was not always the case. It's really been in the last 5 years that I have become more aware and consciously shifted and changed my dialogue around money getting to be fun and focusing on everything that I get to do with money. I get to travel the world. I get to have amazing food. I get to pay for bills when they come up. I don't want for anything. I mean, yes, we all want things, but I don't want for any basic needs. And I get to go do some fun shit and make a big impact in the world. And so I think that's the big thing, is money gets to be fun. Money gets to be whatever you want if you choose it. But for me,
Love it.
money gets to be fun. Um, I think the next one is knowing and learning your money. And that's a little bit vague, but by that I mean, and I see this both with business owners and with people in their personal finances, but if you don't know where your accounts are, and I'm not saying I don't want you to log on and check your accounts every day, like it's a
Mhm.
little obsessive, but if you don't have a ballpark of where your money's at, of where your money's going, not budgeting, but just understanding, like, oh, I have, my mortgage is $4,000. I
Mhm.
have, the food that goes there. I have my charitable contributions that go here, and I know where my retirement account is. I know where my investment account is. I know what my savings account is at. I know what my credit card's at, plus or minus, hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on how much your accounts fluctuate. I think willfully choosing to be ignorant of your money is one of the biggest factors for not having more money. And so knowing your money and understanding your money. And that's where, working with someone like you, or working with someone like me, or working with a fiduciary, like just understanding it's not something that you have to work at every single day or every single minute, but at least being cognizant and aware. And the third one, I'm going to have to think about this for a second. So money is fun. You need to know your money. And I think at the end of the day, I want to see, especially women, being more clear, decisive, and direct with what they want to see in their lives. And that doesn't mean that it can't be subject to change and that there should be shame around changing it. But I can tell you that 5 years of wishy-washiness got me 10% of the way, and 6 months of knowing exactly where the fuck I wanted to go manifested the sale of my
I
house
love
in
it.
4 days. My
Mhm.
new place, or I should say our new place. I've lived here by myself long enough that I keep saying
I
my.
know you're like, I own it, bitch. I've been here
Yeah,
7
I
months.
know. I'm like, I pay the more. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's our house. But in the matter of, I got really, really clear after I broke my ankle in July, and we sold our house a month later for over asking in 4 days. We found this house the following month, and I moved in a month later, and my business exploded.
Really? How did it
Yes.
explode?
Um, I started showing up a lot more. I decided, because this house was a very large jump from our last house. I lived in I bought it when I was 20, a little 900 square foot house outside of Portland, sold it for, a lovely profit. And that was the whole point. It was a starter home, but this house was 3 times what that house cost. And I knew that I couldn't play small anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
was making moves and making changes in my life to move myself the direction that I had always wanted to see. And I had hemmed and hawed. I'd wanted to move for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I had fucked around and made excuses and talked about, oh, once I have this saved, once I have that saved. And finally, after I broke my ankle, I really had some clarity and I was like, fuck that. There is no reason. Like there were 2 things holding us up.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got over those 2 things, hang on. Once I got over, it was where were we going to live? Because we have a bunch of animals. Yes, a bunch of animals. So looked because we needed the money from our house in order to be able to buy the next house. And what was David going to do for work?
Mm-hmm.
And once I decided his income really hadn't been important in several years. And we asked our in-laws if we could live with them. And they said yes. And we did that. And a month later, like, that's it. So it was a bunch of bullshit. So I think clarity and decisiveness are probably, it wraps all of that together. Like you just need to be clear with where you want to go and shit opens up, like attached to the what, not the how.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I agree so much because like, but I feel like sometimes with people, if you're not really clear about what you want to do, like some people starting businesses know they want, like they're meant for more. They know they want to start something. They're just not sure exactly what to call themselves or what to do. You know what I mean? Like they know they want to help people, but they've got all these ideas of how they could do it. And they're like, it's hard for them sometimes at first to like niche down into what they're meant to do. Like you get in your head so much. And I see this all the time, but I feel like it all does just lead you down the path to what you're actually meant to do. Like you might come into it thinking, I'm going to heal inner child wounds. And along the way, discover you've got more of these like healing and psychic abilities inside of you that can actually help people in other ways. You know what I mean? But like you had to do the first step to get to the next. And that's why
Right.
some people quit so soon because, we're so used to seeing instant gratification or like quick success. And especially when you're starting a business or you have like this quote unquote side hustle or whatever, you feel like it's, like when you go through college, for example, you pay money, you get your degree, you come out, most likely you work in that degree, right? But like when you go and you pay for personal development coaches and business coaches, and then like you're like crickets, they don't have any response. I've made like $4 or I think I made like $300 the first year. And it was like, what in the fuck? I swear to God, I've spent like 10 grand. Are you kidding me? Like, it's not a linear thing.
Right.
And so I feel like we expect it, and new people expect it to be linear, and it's not. And it's like, it scares you out of it or just like burns you out of it because you're not really clear about what you want and how you want to help people, because
well, and I think
it comes with time.
It not being linear actually excites me because I think I'm a big proponent of, taking beliefs that I don't resonate with and flipping them so that they're positive for me. And with that, like, because it's not linear, on the flip side, that means it gets to be exponential. Like I get to decide, my business has grown 50 to 100% year over year. Like that's fantastic. I mean, you look at like traditional brick and mortar and it's fantastic if you have 10% year over year growth. And I know I'm not the only one. I see all of my clients and other people around me and other coaches whose businesses are growing exponentially. But I do think that it can definitely be disheartening for someone that's just getting started out, especially if they came from a more corporate background where like you do the work, you put the time in, you get the promotion, your salary goes up, and it's all very linear and like commensurate with generally
Yeah.
effort and experience and time. Whereas here you can lay all this groundwork and be consistent and do the things and show up every day and you're like, what the fuck, it's been 3 months. But then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like the next month you've hit critical mass and you're like, oh, well, if you don't keep pushing, then you may not have hit that month. You may have stopped at month 3 and never known you were on the cusp of greatness.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, because like the consistency there across the board, like in your thoughts, in your actions, in your belief in yourself, and in your accelerated money mindset, it all goes together. And that's really, in posting even, like I see people just give up and go like 6 days without putting anything up on social media. And then they're like, but nobody's bought my offer. I'm like, well, nobody's posted about your offer,
Right. You're like, you kind of have to tell people you're selling the thing in order for them to buy the thing.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I know like Doritos can come out with a new flavor and I am on that shit, but like not everybody's gonna do that with everything you come out with. You just say one time, right?
If only we could be as big of fans. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
exactly. And there are. And once you find those people, like there are a couple people that got almost everything they put out. I'm like, hell yes.
yeah,
And I have some clients that are the same way with my stuff because they're
yeah.
like, they resonate so well with how I teach and the material that I put out. And it just aligns for where they're at in their life and their business. And they're like, why would I not? It's a no brainer because they have so much value from it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Oh my God, I love it. Well, I just have one more question though. As
Yeah.
far as like on the practical side, oh my God. So I made the mistake of looking at my, about a month into COVID, I opened up my TD Ameritrade account and I'm like,
Oh God.
oh my God. So what are your thoughts on like financial planners and things? Can you give the listeners like some pointers on how to choose people or choose
Yes.
friends or things? Cause I know like that's something that like the stock market and me have not always, we are
Vibed.
forming a better relation. I always had high hopes for our relationship, so I'm working on it. But like, I went through a divorce in my 20s. I was 26. And I have the magnet that says, why is divorce so expensive? And then the other like person, it's like one of those Ann Tainter things, like, oh, because it's worth it. I'm like, yeah. So like for sure. I mean, I had built up so much stock, so much in my 401k. Like I did really, really well in pharma sales, especially in the first 10 years of it. And then my ex-husband, it was like $80,000 divorce here. And it was all like from me. Like I was me paying him. So, we're working on this relation, not me and the ex-husband, me and the stock market. We're working on
Yes.
So how do you manifest more success with like, your 401ks and IRAs and how to choose a financial planner? Can you talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely. So I work with someone who I adore. He's fantastic. And my biggest recommendation, so actually I have a couple. So if you're going to look to increase your wealth via investments, and whether that is retirement, traditional, stock investments, money markets, there's a whole suite of offerings that you could potentially look at. And especially if you are self-employed, or even if you're not and you're looking for additional options, I really recommend working with someone. And one of the biggest arguments against it that I've heard is, well, yeah, but if I'm paying them XYZ, that could be $50,000 over the course of 50 years or 30 years or whatever. And the person, one of the best examples, and I love her dearly, but she told me that because she didn't want to work with him. And I don't care if you work with him or not. I'm going to go into choosing the right person. But if you don't choose to work with someone, your chances of actually making moves drop dramatically. So guess what? It's been a year and a half since I talked to her and about that. And she was like, we haven't invested $1.
Yeah.
What is that opportunity cost over the last year and a half when you could have been investing money? Like, okay, so you're going to pay him 1%, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to taking educated action and having a professional help you. So when it comes to that, I do recommend working with someone. And when you look to work with someone, I think it's really important when you work with anyone to make sure that you get along personality wise and that you feel heard, understood, and taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel with him. And that's how he specializes in self-employed and entrepreneurial retirement and long-term investment strategies. And I refer him out to everyone because he's truly a joy of a human being. But even better, he is a fiduciary. And a fiduciary is both morally and legally obligated to act in your best interest as the client, whereas financial planners and financial advisors are not necessarily, they're not, at all obligated. I mean, other than morally, which we would hope. But the difference between the two of them, they're different pay structures for most of them. And you can ask them. And most people, if you're going to be working with them, they will disclose very clearly like how they're getting paid by you. So in this case, as a fiduciary, he gets 1% of everything that I invest. Just flat. Once a quarter, it gets automatically pulled from my account. I don't, send him a check or anything. Like, we are good there. It is very, very simple. Whereas beforehand, when he was a financial advisor, he would get paid based on the investments he put me into as a commission. So you could see where if you had someone that, and even if they were as ethical as all get out, they're still like, oh, there's kind of a gray area of like, well, if this one pays me, $20 and this one pays me $25 and they're both about the same, how much work are you going to put into vetting which one's better? Probably not much. And so most financial advisors are paid on commission and they don't have to work in your best interest. So I always recommend a fiduciary whenever possible. And I mean, just understand what you're doing and make sure they're listening to you. Like with him, I filled out a whole risk questionnaire and risk tolerance so that when something like this happens and it hurts to look at my investment accounts for a bit, I don't freak out. And that's my number, I don't know, 2 tip, I guess, or 3, somewhere in there. Don't panic because you are in it for the long haul. Over the course of 5 to 10 years, never in the history of our economy has the economy not recovered. So my biggest recommendation, unless you just like to look, which I do, is to ignore all of your accounts right now and to keep investing as per usual. So if you're normally sending $500 a month to your 401k or your investment account, continue with that, because for quite a while there, all of your investments were essentially on sale. So you were continuing to buy in at a lower level. And then over the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, I expect those to continue to rise back up in value, which they have done. My 401k is actually back up to almost where it was. I expect it to drop again. But psychologically, the drops in your investment accounts hurt much more than any of the bumps in your investment accounts feel good. So it's better for you to ignore them, and they tend to perform better the longer you ignore them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's what, that's what I was saying to my husband. Like if everything falls and you've got all of this money and now you're investing more and more in things, then eventually when it goes up, it'll be higher than it was before.
Yeah. It's dollar cost averaging is the more technical term for it, but essentially like, one of the best things you can do, one is automate it, big proponent for that, but 2, just be consistent. I mean, just like we talk about showing up in our business, be consistent in your investments. And, just keep that. If anything, I actually bumped mine a little bit during this time when they were on sale, but not by much. I mean, we're talking a couple $100 in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, be consistent, because you're going to buy something for less now. You may buy something for more later. Like, it all evens out over the long run, and you end up having a more robust and diverse portfolio by the time you're actually ready to use it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it sounds like they should have called financial planners more the fiduciaries, because it's like douchebags. No, I'm just kidding.
I love that. I actually never thought of that before. Yeah.
Douchebags don't have your best interest at heart. So.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that they can't, but they're not obligated to.
No, exactly. It's like you go to the car dealership and you get a free car wash when you get your oil change, but some people are like, do you want it? And like, well, duh, like, why would I not? That's my best interest. Go help a sister out. Like, kids.
Get this car clean.
Yeah. Well, oh my God, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much. I love having this like practical side of money added in to the conversation, like it's such a good blend, and it really feels like so aligned to me. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, I'm pretty like I've always been pretty logical until I realized that like not being logical got me more illogical results, which was good,
Yes.
But like when you can marry the both of them, it's pure magic. It's like the masculine and feminine energy put together, right?
Yes, you literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that like being able to marry those two is magic, like just straight out of my brain, because it takes the actionable, and then it takes the, belief system and structure, and you can really make some amazing things happen.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Well, cool. Well, tell everybody where they can come find you. And I have one last question for you, but you tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay. Yes. So Instagram, Katelyn Magnuson. I also have a free Facebook group, Millennial Money Mastered.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dropping, the last week or two, have had kind of a crazy couple of weeks, as have the majority of us, I think, but it's a fantastic group. It's not just for entrepreneurs. It's really for anyone that is looking to better understand their money. They don't have to be millennials. It's just the vast majority of them are. Yeah, and I'm there. Those are like the two best places by far.
Awesome. I love it. I'm not a millennial, but I am one at heart.
When I changed the name, I had a couple people go, "Can I not be in here anymore?" I was like, no, you're still more than welcome. Like, please don't leave.
Hey, listen, I have met people who are 50-year-old and like, I feel like they have more energy than 18-year-olds. And then, the opposite way. Like,
Yep.
Like my cousin's husband, Gary, just turned 60. And I was like, oh my God, he is. And my husband's like, oh yeah, my dad turned 60 like last, just a couple of weeks ago too. And I was like, what? Like they're
such a juxtaposition. Yeah. No, we have a neighbor who's 75. And the day we closed on our house was his 75th birthday. And I found out that night and I was like, what?
Wow.
How? Like I would have easily put him 15 to 20 years younger because he's just vibrant.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, okay, your last question. This is a big one. Mm-hmm. So I'm huge on travel too. And I'm curious, when everything opens up, what's your first destination?
I don't fucking care. I just want to get on a plane. No, that was like, I travel with and without my husband. I've always had itchy feet, wanderlust. My whole family, like that's how we grew up. And when I met David, he didn't even have a passport. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, you don't have to go with me, but I'm not going to stop traveling. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I really don't care. I feel like probably Europe. I'm fluent in Spanish, and so we spend a lot of time in South America and Latin America, mm-hmm. but I also have a very deep love of Europe, and David loves Iceland. Yeah. We eloped there. We've been back several times. But really wherever I can find a flight that I like, because I'm all about the fewest connections possible, which coming from Boise is not the easiest.
True.
But yeah. What about you?
Oh man. Well, see, we've traveled. He's 4. My 4-year-old has probably more passport stamps than most Americans. Like when he was 1, we had taken him to South Africa, taking him to Bali, Barcelona. We went for my 40th, not last year, but the year before. And so we were actually just talking about Barcelona. Like I totally want to move there to New York.
I love Barcelona so much. I actually thought about flying for the weekend just to get pizza.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love it. Yeah, it's so gorgeous. I envision and I dream journal about having like living a couple of months out of the year there,
Yep. Nope. That's the plan.
Yeah.
We have the mountain house. I want the, cultured apartment in Barcelona. Yeah. That's what I will have. That's what we will have.
I love it. Oh, that's so cool. Well, yeah, I think for us, we really want to go to Portugal And my husband would love to go to Costa Rica, but I've already been there. So I kind of want to, I like going to new places,
I get that.
you know,
I
and
get that. Have you been to Portugal?
no, not yet. That's the only, one of the only
Oh
places.
my God. Okay. I had to fly home early from Portugal with COVID. Well, not with COVID, but due to COVID in
Yeah.
March. And Porto is like my
Yeah,
second favorite to Barcelona.
really. Oh yeah.
Yes.
I actually had friends that all went there. I think like last November they went to Porto and they were there for like a week and a few other places there.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough.
Well, cool. Well, I guess that's settled.
There you go. You can go to Porto and I'll go to Barcelona or just really
There we
anywhere in
go.
Europe.
Meet you in
Yeah.
the middle.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, thank you so much. I love it. And yeah, everybody go find Katelyn. You are going to learn so much about money, and I absolutely will be bringing more and more and more of these topics to you as we go on. It's becoming more and more clear. Everybody
Oh,
needs it.
yes. And thank you so much for having me. This was so fun to spend the afternoon doing this.
Yay, me too. I agree. Well, thank you guys for listening. And if you loved this episode, leave a 5-star rating and a review. We'd love to hear from you. And guys, have a beautiful day. Bye. Thanks a million for choosing to push play on another episode of the Manifestation Queen podcast. You truly amaze me. And if this episode blew your mind, then please leave a 5-star rating and a quick review on iTunes so more people like you can become manifestation queens too. See you next time.